Alright, lock in because today I'm going to be giving my thoughts and a recap on Australian Survivor, Brains vs Brawn II, Week 1. It's been a long wait. I've very publicly been saying that Survivor 46 made me quit watching the US version of Survivor, and I skipped out on 47 entirely. So after about a year drought, I'm glad to be back covering the superior version of Survivor and being able to put that stuff behind me. So yeah, it's time to get in here. Let's go. Episode 1 started with a reward challenge. I didn't find it to be too amazing, especially for Australian Survivor standards. It was just moving these bags and standing on them and tying these sticks together to try and get a key. The challenge was whatever, but the cast made the challenge. Like, they weren't given much, but they made something of this challenge. The moment that I'm talking about is when Rich suggested throwing the bags up there to knock the key down. Then they got the bag stuck. That was a fun moment, and actually it was a really impactful moment for how this first week played out. Anyways, Brawn won the reward challenge. Before getting to the main chaos, I have to say a few things. I liked Miles on the Brain Tribe saying that he was a freaking sheets, the spreadsheets, and it just set him up to be a fun character. Also, I have to mention that on the Brains Tribe, the Witches Coven was a thing. 4 women, Karen, Laura, Logan, and Zara made a Witches Coven alliance, and that'll definitely come into play. But I've got to say, episode 1 was carried mainly by Nash's chaos. He found an idol 5 minutes into the game, which was useful because the Brawn Tribe lost immunity after this. But instead of keeping it a secret, Nash told everyone and even wore it to the immunity challenge and got clowned on when they lost. Put it around your neck now. But yeah, Nash was trying to strong arm people and show that he had power, and hopefully people would align with him because hey, he's safe at this tribal council. He's not going anywhere. But that's only for one tribal council. The way that he was acting was like a big brother head of household, but he didn't have that much power. He didn't have the ability to pick nominations, but he played like he did by not necessarily strong arming, but the only name that he was saying was Candy. That was it. Nash banked his whole game on being able to set up a power structure for this first vote that would last him a couple of votes, when that just wasn't good gameplay, because when he doesn't have the idol anymore, people are going to remember how he treated them and caused all of this chaos in episode 1. Bad gameplay for sure, but bad gameplay doesn't always necessarily equate to bad TV. It actually created some really good chaos, and like Noonan said, it forced everyone to play the game right away. I like Noonan being this big counter to Nash, the Nash Rash, and not going down easily and letting Nash get his way because he had an idol. That was much needed, having those opposing sides and her trying to get the votes on Ursula, Nash's supposed #1 ally, I guess, which caused a scramble and an idol search. It was funny because Ursula was mad that Nash got her name on the chopping block, and while trying to find an idol, Nash was like, they're hard to find, and Ursula was like, thanks for that. I love that Noonan stepped up and didn't get walked all over by Nash. But she didn't get her way because Morgan and Kate flipped. They were big swing votes at the Candy vote. I don't like that they somewhat got scared into going with Nash's plan, mainly Kate, because Nash implied that she would be next, or that's what she thought. I don't like that they got scared into this when, based on how the votes played out, they could have did their own thing. They were the deciding votes in this 5-4-3 vote. 5 Candy, 4 Ursula, 3 Nash. They didn't have to go with Nash if they didn't want to. It probably wasn't the best move, probably just voted themselves into the minority if the 6 remaining Ursula and Nash votes stayed together when they said that they wanted to go with the numbers. That could be a thing, but honestly, there's just not enough information out there. Like, at this moment, not much is known about their relationships around the tribe to even know if they made the right move or not. But yeah, like I was going to say, regardless of if it was a good move or a bad move, I like their personalities and their partnership that I'm assuming they have. I'll just say it here. Brawn didn't go back to tribal council this week, so they didn't get a lot of important content or really much of any content at all. Didn't really get to fully explain their votes. But when there were like these B-roll shots, Kate and Morgan were shown to be together a lot, so I'm assuming they're a pair. I like them, and I think that they can be dangerous in the game, so hopefully they go far and maybe get another tribal council to show what they're made of after going quiet since episode 1. I actually made a story post on Instagram saying something like Team Kate for sure, and she actually responded, which was unexpected but nice. Definitely love the season where the players engage with the fans. It just added to this amazing experience, especially for someone like me. I feel like I've been ignored a lot in my life, so I appreciated this, and it just shows that it doesn't take much. Like, it doesn't cost anything to make someone's day. So I appreciated that, and even though I blurred the message, because at the end of the day, a private message is a private message. Like, gotta respect that. I'm not gonna let that go unnoticed because she didn't have to respond, but that was so nice. But yeah, to wrap up most of the talk about the Brawn tribe, Candy got eliminated, which I didn't really care for her. They didn't really set her up to be a special character or a rootable character because it's only one episode. But yeah, on one hand, it's unfortunate that she got caught up in the crossfire of Nash's chaos and he had an idol which got flushed here. But on the other hand, no one was really willing to fight for Candy, so she didn't make strong connections out there. Candy's elimination had a hint of shakiness, but she also could have played better, I've got to say. So that was episode 1 for the Brawn tribe mainly. Now I'm going to go over to the Brain tribe and talk about their episode 1 and 2, as I don't really have much to say about the Brawn tribe in episode 2 because they won immunity. So on the Brains tribe, I've got to talk about Kent. For some reason, he decided to get up in the middle of the night and burn Max's hat because he lost a challenge, which I didn't like. Very extreme for losing a challenge, I've got to say. But Max, yeah, he got the bag stuck, but it wasn't even his idea to throw the bags up there. That was Rich. So yeah, I didn't like the hat burning, destroying someone's personal property. Same thing that happened to George in Heroes vs. Villains. Like, maybe there should be a policy against that. But I will say, I liked how Kent made a show of it by trying to pin the hat burning on Miles and talking about how he's a Komodo dragon and a praying mantis and something about like toxins and poison and stuff. Like in one of his confessionals, he said, "'Cause the poison's already in, remember?" with this smug smile. And I was like, what is bro talking about? This stuff reminded me of this show that I used to watch, Beyblade Metal Fusion, where there was this guy named Reggie with a poison serpent Beyblade, and his thing was that he slowly broke people's Beyblades while he was battling them, and he said stuff like serpent's poison has taken over and stuff like that. Kent is an anime villain and I love it, but not only that, like, he's not finished. Now getting over to episode 2, when the Brains tribe went to tribal council, he revealed to everyone that he burned Max's hat and said his plan was to pin it on Miles because he knew that Miles was going to be a good player or whatever. It was so funny because mostly everyone laughed, but he didn't get the response that he was probably hoping for from some of the women in the Witches Coven, calling him delusional and such. And it was funny because, okay, the poison is in. He poisoned Miles in episode 1, and to his credit, the poison was working in this episode until he fell asleep and the plan got changed. But the thing is, he was trying to get Miles out at this tribal council, but he told everyone that Miles didn't burn the hat, which basically cleared his name somewhat, and it was just so funny and confusing. Like, what was the strategy here, if there was even any strategy? It's funny how it came out of nowhere. Kent made a big show of it, but then after the hat talk, no one really cared, and the women started talking about Indy flipping on the women's alliance. That's so funny. Like, bro's a side plot, a filler plot, after the official Survivor AU Instagram really hyped this episode up to be Kent versus Miles, which basically spoiled that they were going to tribal council, by the way. But that was funny how the hat burning got brushed off so quickly when Kent was going for glory. That really could have blown up Kent's game, but he got lucky that Indy self-destructed her game more, and like the plan was already in place basically. For Indy, I've got to say that this was a really big fumble. She wasn't one of the original members of the coven, but she got entry. Like, okay, that's nice, you're in the majority, But she didn't like that she was the last one in, so she told Max and Rich that Rich was the next target and tried to strong arm him and say that she's putting her game on the line, and if he screws her over, that she's gonna come for Rich next. I don't know why she would want to flip. On one hand, she was part of a cohesive majority and was the last one in, so she probably wouldn't be seen as a leader and someone that they should take out. But on the other hand, she was the last one into that alliance and probably wouldn't have that much sway. Tough call, but regardless, no matter which way she went, she had it made. She had everything she needed to either ride with the Coven or flip the game on its head, and in both scenarios, she would have been safe. She had it made, but she ruined it because of the way that she talked to Rich, and that social aspect is what's going to separate good players from bad players. Indy was probably in a better position than Candy, but she did way more to ruin her game. So if I ever made some player rankings, Indy might be in last place. Maybe because there's still another episode to talk about. For the third episode, all of these episodes were good, but this was the weakest episode of the week, almost by default, which is still an 8 out of 10 episode, I've got to say, but it is sad. Zen got medevaced because he fractured his finger in one of Australian Survivor's signature physical wrestling type challenges. When Zen kept on harping on it, I would say like the second time he brought it up, that's when I knew it was serious and that he was getting medevaced because it got a decent amount of mention. The physical challenges are definitely something that Australian Survivor has over the US version. It's fun, it's different. In a way, it feels like back to basics or something that I'd see on an actual survival show, like willpower challenges, gotta want it more. But this is one of the downsides to having those physical challenges, like players are gonna get injured. Really unfortunate because I liked Zen. Also, I've got to say, more was needed from him to fill in the story of the season. Like, I didn't mention this in episode 1, but Zen was the first person that Nash told about his idol, and throughout the episode, it seemed like they were close, just for Zen to write Nash's name down at Tribal Council. So, what happened? There was no real explanation other than Zen admitting to Nash that he flipped in episode 2. Also, I don't know if Zen was really a contender to win, but he probably had a bit more to give to the game because in his before and after tribute type of thing in the extras, he said that the moves that he and Nash were going to be making were going to be catastrophic. So I guess that they repaired their relationship. There's just a lot of questions gameplay wise, but I'm glad that they decided to prioritize Zen's health over the show. Fun character for the first week, and yeah, stay stoic. Hopefully he gets another chance if he wants it. So that was sad. Other than that, last thing for the Brawn tribe, Paulie got a napkin map to an idol and found it. And he didn't tell Noonan that he found it, but he said that he found the clue. It didn't come into play in this episode, but I thought that that was an interesting bit of strategy, not revealing the idol, but saying that he had a clue to the idol, which is meeting Noonan halfway. Don't want to be like Nash and have a public idol that people want to flush, so I like that strategy from Paulie. Then for the Brain tribe, I've got to say the vote was somewhat of a letdown considering all of the scrambling that went on. The scrambling was fun, the chaos was fun, but the end result was boring. AJ realized that there was this coven even though there was nothing to really realize or discover because the women basically said that they were working together at the previous tribal council. So he tried to make this plan to get Logan out, probably the most social person within the coven, but the numbers just weren't there because Kent was hyper focused on voting for Miles and Max seemed to be in with the women and the guys just didn't have the togetherness that the women had. So he needed a woman, but he misread the fact that Allie had a good relationship with Logan, even though that probably was the best case scenario because Allie wasn't even in the initial coven. At first, it was funny because AJ was talking to Allie in this cryptic way, talking about the plan, but then Allie assumed that the plan was Rich and ran that plan back to Logan, and Logan just started trashing Rich when she was AJ's plan. But AJ blew up his game by telling Allie that the actual plan was Logan and this got back to her. It's a misplay, but honestly, I've got to say, the women were just faster solidifying trust earlier and they're outplaying the guys. Good that AJ knows what needs to happen, but the women were just light years ahead of the guys. Like Rich and Kent weren't even playing strategically. So there's a lot of names out there: Logan, Miles, Kent, AJ, and Rich. Like a lot of chaos, a lot of scrambling. But like AJ said, he went with the boring vote, as Kent was voted out very decisively because of the hat tricks and being weird and stuff. I was kind of expecting a non-elimination to save Kent because Zin left, and I actually thought that the rest of the episode was going to be filler and they're going to go to tribal council and JLP is going to call off the vote or give them an opportunity to cancel the vote or not vote at all. But no, so I guess this means that there might be an extra non-elimination round, or if they were planning a final 3, maybe they need an extra elimination and it'll be a final 2. But yeah, really unfortunate that Kent went out. He was a bad player, but he brought a lot of chaos and comedy to the game with that toxic venom stuff or whatever, and he always got his plans ruined. I didn't like the hat burning, but he turned it into a whole story arc. I just like that he was ambitious and willing to start stuff, start conflict. Honestly, it's hard to believe that he was playing an actual game of Survivor out there. Like, he was just playing for screen time or second chance, something like that. He was an entertaining villain that US Survivor just wouldn't cast anymore, so I appreciate that. Like, it was good casting. He was a very nice week 1 villain. I wanted him to stay, but that wasn't the case, so hopefully someone else can fill that void, entertainment-wise. I already have my favorites, but also there's some characters that haven't really been explored that much that could have a big week, so I'm interested to see what happens. I'm not really a player rankings type of guy, especially when the season is going on. Like, I'm not an intense edit reader, like I'm just trying to watch a show. But I have 1 or 2 notes before I leave. The witch, Laura, is a way better player than I was expecting. Like, she has a coven and she's actually a logical thinker. The witch is locked in with Rich, and while Logan was trashing him, didn't like living with him and such, Laura pushed back on voting him out because he was so willing to bring them the information that Indy wanted to flip. So she's playing a good and rational game right now. Lastly, something important to remember is that since Zen got medevac, that brings the Brawn tribe down to 10 members, and that means that there's now an even split of people that voted for Candy and people that voted for Nash and Ursula. So this right here might have just saved Kate and Morgan's game, and now they can really pick which side they're going to align with. So I'm interested to see how this stuff plays out, since Brawn hasn't gotten much since episode 1. If the groups somehow stay together, then it's 5 versus 5, so anything can happen. But yeah, week 1 of Brains versus Brawn 2 was a massive success, and I'm hoping that they can carry that momentum into week 2. But yeah, that is all for now. Stay strong, stay brutal, because above all else, it's anything to win.
I won't let you down, Bruce. I'll keep fighting. Always.